Welcome, everyone. Hi, this is Jenny Whitener, CEO of Bridge Innovate, and we are thrilled to welcome you today to a wonderful webinar, Leading Diversity and Inclusion, and our special guest today, Lucia Cook, who is a Senior Director with Shaw Industries and is going to be sharing with you her amazing story about leading diversity and inclusion there at Shaw. You're joining us today through Bridge Innovate. We are a global network of business strategists, consultants, and leaders who work alongside you and your teams to create defining moments for your organization. We have the privilege of teaming with global and regional organizations as well as nonprofits, and we're very thankful for our clients and thankful for our historic relationship with Shaw Industries. It's been great to partner with them over the years. As we move on, I wanted to just introduce Lucia and let her tell you a little bit about herself. She's got an amazing story to share with you. I'm going to let her introduce the agenda, give you her background, and tell you a bit of her history. And again, thank you so much, Lucia, for joining us today. So I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. So the first thing I want to do is say thank you to Jenny again for the opportunity to come and speak and just share a few nuggets as Jenny and I had a really wonderful lunch conversation a few months ago and just chatted about what we were doing here at Shaw, and then she extended this opportunity to me. So we are grateful. I am specifically thankful just to come and share some key nuggets. My intent today is not to give advice, it's just to share some nuggets and hopefully inspire you as I share what we have done at Shaw and continue to do at Shaw as it relates to the area of diversity and inclusion. So let me first start by introducing myself. My name is Lucia Cook, and I have been with Shaw Industries. It'll be just about 4 years this year. I am originally from New York City. I went to school upstate New York. My parents are from the Caribbean, so I'm a first generation American in my family. I am an engineer by my first degree, who decided that helping people and seeing people succeed and enabling people to succeed was really my mission and purpose in life. And so I did something that a lot of my engineering friends look at me and go, what? I jumped over to HR, ended up getting my master's degree in human resources, and really have enjoyed every moment of being in HR, in and around HR, working with people, understanding what their needs are and doing my best to enable them to overcome those obstacles, hurdles, even sometimes ones that they put there themselves. So that's me in a nutshell. Excited to be joining you all today. As Jenny shared, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the Shaw diversity and inclusion journey. I'm going to share with you the Shaw Way, which is kind of our North Star as we think about the business and where we are going. Diversity and inclusion elements, I'll share one of our competencies and expectations of all of our leaders and some of the key points that are included there. And then our tagline or initiative, Spark Growth for Inclusive Leadership, and some of the unique things that we are doing here at Shaw, again, with an intent to hopefully inspire you to think more broadly, think more outside of the box, so to speak, and understand that you have to do what's right for your organization, but just share what has been right, at least so far, for our organization. So next slide, Colin. So an inclusive culture starts here at Shaw. Next slide. Just wanted to share some context with you as to Shaw, as you think about, as we go further in the conversation, who are we referring to? So history of success since 1967. Here's where we are today, 100 plus manufacturing and distribution facilities in 30 states. It is true that Shaw Industries is primarily headquartered in Dalton, Georgia, and a lot of our manufacturing facilities are in Dalton, Georgia. However, we do have distribution facilities and manufacturing operations in other states. 4,500 customer deliveries, roughly, each day. We're an almost $6 billion company in annual sales, and we have over 22,000 associates worldwide. And if I didn't mention it, we are the leading flooring solutions company. Next slide. So I will share with you, I am a person that loves interaction and audience participation. And so as much as you would like, feel free to just jump into the Zoom chat, type some thoughts. I know Colin is helping to monitor. I'm going to do my best to keep an eye out as well throughout the discussion and conversation. If there's something that I don't get to, just type it in and I know we'll get back to it. And I'm more than happy for Jenny to share my information after if there's a follow-up that anyone has. But we're going to jump right on in to get started because I can't see all of you, so I need some interaction. So why diversity and inclusion? If you wouldn't mind just putting some thoughts in the Zoom chat on why D&I, why diversity and inclusion or inclusion and diversity. I know that some places have already reordered those words. Why D&I? Why do we do it? Why do we think about it? Why do we work on it? Why do we have folks in positions like mine? So great for business and great for us, makes life richer for everyone. To bring people together, yep. Better understand the end users and customers, absolutely. Any other thoughts? Necessary to engage employees and the community, absolutely. Increases performance, yes. Diverse perspectives, awesome. Better understanding our people. A diverse and inclusive workplace is a healthy workplace. I love that. And helps build diverse cultures in your business, absolutely. Best outcomes come from inclusive companies. Awesome. Celebrate differences and engaging different perspectives. I love it. More creative and innovative workforce. Better creativity. Awesome, awesome. And those answers, employee wellness, yes. Wellness, I love that word. Overall wellness. Absolutely. Any other thoughts? Great. So continue to share those if you haven't had a chance, but you all nailed it. Why we do diversity and inclusion for all the reasons that you mentioned. When we think about winning top talent, we think about strengthening our customer orientation, increasing employee engagement and satisfaction, fostering innovation and creativity, and then, of course, as we think about social responsibility, moving up in order of importance as we think about talent, D&I really does fall in that social responsibility bucket. And a recent McKinsey study that has actually just came out this week, following up on the 2015 and subsequent studies, share that racial and ethnic diversity, those companies in the top quartile are 36% more likely to have financial returns above national industry medians. And from a gender diversity standpoint, they're 25% more likely to have financial returns above national industry medians. So when we talk about that business performance piece, there's data and research that says it is absolutely worth it to make the investment in diversity and inclusion. So let's go to the next slide, Colin, and talk about, so what does that mean for Shaw? This is our CEO, Mr. Vance Bell, and his perspective is, and expectations are, diversity and inclusion is foundational to how we do business and how we lead. It's creating the right environment for innovation and change by having different perspectives at the table and letting those viewpoints be heard and, even more importantly, valued. And so the first nugget, I'll give a few nuggets as we talk through this. The first nugget I'll leave with you is it is important as you start, begin, continue your D&I journey that you have a leadership commitment and support. It has to start from the top. We talk about leaders, role modeling, everything else in our organization. So this area is no different. And it's not just about the talk, they need to walk the talk as well. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we do that at Shaw. And please, by no means, hear me saying that we've got anything perfect at Shaw. We have opportunities just like almost every organization has opportunities, because as soon as you think you've arrived, the bar changes. And so there's still work to do. So again, we're not perfect, but at least we have some aspirations and some aspirational goals ahead of us that we can continue to strive toward. So next slide. This is what you're seeing on the screen now is just a very high level overview of what we consider the Shawl Way, which is our true north as an organization. You'll see our vision, creating a better future for our people, our customers, our company, our communities. Our mission, great people, great products, great service, always. And our values of honesty, integrity, and passion. I won't read the entire thing to you, but what I will show you is two specific areas. On the right-hand side, you see culture. Of course, D&I is wrapped up all in culture. But even more importantly, specific behaviors that we expect as we navigate and carry out our business objectives. Respectful, safe workplace, collaborative, inclusive, accountable, candid. Again, all of those speak to some of those characteristics that you all first mentioned around why D&I. We have it on our guiding document that shows our business strategy. It is that important to us. And then foundationally, we have competencies, which many companies have and organizations have around what is expected of all of our leaders at every level of the organization. And for us, one of those that carries across all of our leadership levels is demonstrate inclusive leadership, which we've shown at the bottom. And the key actions we have are champions diversity and inclusion, demonstrates self-awareness, uses diversity as an advantage, and ultimately and above all conveys respect. And we'll talk a little bit about, that conveys respect because in my opinion, if you do nothing else but convey respect, you have gone a long way. And that is foundational. And it's not just about how I think I should respect you, but it's about how you want to be and value respect. So if we go to the next slide, Colin, just to share a little bit about our journey uh, with D&I, and the next nugget I'll give you is it is a journey. It is absolutely a journey. There have been so many companies that have started and shifted course and thought we were going to achieve this and get to here, and again the expectations change or the people change, the makeup of your organization changes, then you have to do something different. The journey will continue and the journey must continue. So for us, we started in 2007 and we created our Council for Diversity and Inclusion. And the mission for that council was threefold: to engage our associates in dialogue and conversation that enable them to share input, ideas, and experiences that spark innovation and growth; to educate our associates on the value and critical importance of diversity and inclusion to our business strategy; and then the third E, to empower associates to be their authentic self daily. And so our council is made up of about 20-ish, 25 leaders from across the organization, a cross-functional group of leaders that we have a leader of the council. So I sit on the council and I navigate and strategize with the council leaders, but it is truly a council of representatives and leaders from across the organization that bring ideas, bring perspectives, bring opportunities, bring problems that have been encountered in their functional area and say, okay, everybody, we've got a great group here. Let's figure out what makes the best sense for Shaw. And then they are then empowered to go back into their organization and lead that effort, lead that charge, carry on, whatever solution we may have come up with. And then again, it's an iterative process. This team also works on high level initiatives, which we're about to get into as we think about where does Shaw need to go next? Where are we now? Where do we need to go next? Next slide. So I would say tagline, for lack of another word, for our initiative at Shaw is spark growth through inclusive leadership. And I cannot take any credit for the visual. Our corporate comm team is phenomenal. But they took some words and that's what they came up with. And every time I look at it, I just get excited. The colors, the boldness, the differences, the uniqueness. And I mean, it sparks something. Hopefully it's growth, but it definitely sparks creativity as you look at it. So visual appeal, of course, is always something catchy, but even more importantly are the words spark growth through inclusive leadership. And really it's about fostering an environment where every associate belongs and brings their unique background and experience to spark solutions that enable our people and our business to grow. You can't have one growing and not the other. So our people and our business to grow. And so I picked up the D&I role or picked up my baton, I guess, in this journey it'll be 2 years this September, actually. And so I added a fourth E. If you remember, I mentioned engage, educate, and empower. I added a fourth E and said, create the best associate experience where every associate feels valued, included, and a sense of belong. And I take no credit for the tagline, But again, my opportunity was to take the baton and make it better. Each leader that comes into a role in an organization should pick up from where it is today, and they should enable that organization and those people in that organization to make it better. And so what I would say here, I don't even know what nugget I'm on, but the next nugget I'll share with you is assess and plan. What I had the opportunity to do and took the time to do when I picked up my baton was to say, where are we today? And where is it that we want to go, connected to the next nugget, the business strategy? Because again, D&I and the business can't be like this. They have to be lockstep if you're really going to have the impact that you want to have. So I'll leave the next nugget of know your business, know where your business is going and intending to go, and then also making sure that you take the time to assess and plan, because it's a journey and you're going to have to navigate it continually and iterate as necessary. Change course sometimes, may have to take a step back to go 2 to 3 steps forward, but it should be worth it in the end. So let's go to the next slide, Colin. So I'll share with you some of the programs or offerings or ways that we at Shaw really think about incorporating diversity and inclusion into what we do. We have training just like most organizations. We outsource our training specifically on unconscious bias with Cook Ross, and they've changed the name to Disrupting Everyday Bias. As we think about some of our systems and how we as leaders have to ensure that we are at least aware, going back to that self-awareness and our key actions, aware of what our biases may be. And sometimes we need someone to kind of mention that to us or say, hey, I think you have a blind spot. And so we encourage and expect our leaders to go through the Disrupting Everyday Bias training. We also offer cultural competence training, understanding different cultures so we could be more competent as we try to convey respect. And then also we've had opportunities for microaggressions training, because there's sometimes it's not quite a joke, but people really don't understand the impact of their words. We want to make sure they are, again, more aware of that so they can do different things when necessary. I'll talk a little bit about our table of contents. And then one thing I want to mention here is really it's about making it systemic. So as you look at our core leadership pathway, which is our leadership development for each level of leadership, our accelerated development programs, our talent acquisition organization. I will say I have some fantastic talent acquisition partners. It really is about in our key systems every day within the organization, how are we ensuring that we are looking through the lens of diversity and inclusion? My intent and goal is not to create a whole separate system that says, hey, by the way, after you do X, then D&I needs to do Y. X and Y need to coexist in that system. Remember that engineering thing I told you about? I don't like rework, and it doesn't really make business sense anyway. So it makes sense to just have it be part of what you do every single day. That's the feeling valued. That's the feeling like I belong that we absolutely need to continue to have. So go to the next slide, please, Colin. The other thing that we have within Shaw are our associate resource groups. On the screen, you see 6. We currently have 6 associate resource groups. Women Innovation Network, our Black Multicultural Network Spectrum, Shaw Veterans for Shaw vets and their families to offer support, Conexión, which is for our Latino and Hispanic associates, Sales Cultural Council for our sales organization to keep them connected as they're around the world. And then most recently, last year, we launched our LGBT plus and allies group. And the one thing that I'll say here is our mantra is, you don't have to be one to stand with. And so all of our associate resource groups are open to anyone across the organization, because the way that you learn, the way that you challenge, the way that you really have someone hopefully offer an opportunity for you to think differently about your perspective is to engage with someone that has a different perspective than you do. So why not join one of these ARGs, especially if you're looking to support, advocate, and understand even more. Next slide, Colin. I'll share also our table of contents, which are, an absolutely great, and I would say one of our signature programs with regards to joining the conversation. On the slide, what you'll see are a few of our what we call table topics, and this is truly just an open forum, open session. Folks sign up about 25 to 30 each time, and they go to a table topic, and we have facilitators or moderators who have guided information. We have some research that they share on the topic, and it really talks about different dimensions of diversity. Some of the other topics not listed are generational diversity, barriers to racial conversations, fostering inclusion, and people with disabilities. We're looking at some others around how does an org structure impact inclusive leadership. Contribution matters, because we know that contribution and tenure conversation comes up often and is a whole different level of diversity. And then intersectionality. So those are some other ones that we're looking to add really soon. I will tell you some great discussion, great ideas. Actually, our launching of our one LGBT plus and allies ARG came from a discussion that happened at one of our table of contents. Some folks just heard some different scenarios and said, how might we enable a better experience here? And therefore, a few years later, we launched our ARG. The last slide, or second to last slide, is a series that we just started about a year and a quarter ago, which is really titled Perspectives. And there's my corporate comm team with their great visuals again. But as you think about how do we get an organization engaged in a different way to understand and learn about the perspectives of others? It is a monthly email campaign intended to build cultural competence. And we have had so much positive response. We've talked most recently about mental health. And as we think about the current pandemic and what we're going through, that is such a unique opportunity to really reach those that might need additional support and additional care and concern, and for us to continue to build empathy. We've talked about religion. We had an article around the five most largest religions across the world, and just kind of gave some tidbits. And we did it in a way that was so natural to folks. We talked about food. Everybody loves food. But through the use of talking about food, we were able to encapsulate the ideals and principles from each of those religions. We talked about women and the double bind and can women have it all, and transitioning, and dispelling some of the myths around women in leadership roles and things like that. We talked about, Black and African American culture. We really put it out there. We went to our spectrum group and we asked the one simple question: do you prefer to be called African American or Black? It's a question that a lot of people may have on their minds and never want to ask. So guess what? We said, let's go ask and give a perspective. And I was so appreciative of the folks that came back and said, you know what? I've always wanted to ask that question, but I didn't know how to. Or I took that home and talked with my family and friends. And, it really started an awesome conversation. And a lot of times we find that folks have questions they just don't know how to ask. And so how do we, if you hear me say nothing else, the goal and focus really above everything else that we've talked about is creating empathy, continuing to create empathy through conversation. It takes one person taking that first step, two people taking that first step and saying, okay, I want to learn more about, I want to understand something different. Here's what I'm thinking. What do you think about that? And that's for D&I, that's for a particular experience or culture or business or idea. You think about what we talked about, innovation. How many of us put our head down and say, this is what I think the solution should be. Okay, let's propose it. Go get another perspective. We always used to hear 2 heads are better than one, 2 minds are better than one, 2 are better than 1, 4 or 5 might even be better than those 2. So how do you encourage and engage those conversations that really lead to better thinking and absolutely business breakthroughs? And then we talked about Chinese culture as well. Next slide. So that is really most of what I wanted to share. The one last nugget that I'll give is, in this case, unlike a lot of clothing these days, one size does not fit all, right? What I shared with you is just Shaw and what we've been doing in the last few years. Assess and plan, understand what your organization needs for moments such as this, and then say, you know what, let's start with one thing, or think outside the box. I don't know that anybody would have thought of a table of contents or, an email campaign with perspectives and being, radical enough to go ask the question, that we've asked in some of those articles just to kind of put it out there and get a response and a reaction. But that's what we've done. And, what's next for Shaw? I don't know all of what's next for Shaw as we all, I think, navigate with this pandemic and what the expectations are going to be socially and just from a medical and keeping all of our employees safe. But I think for us, it's really how do we, in this next normal, as we are terming it, understand how to maintain that connection with people as we go more remote, as we go more virtual? How do we keep people connected? And even more so, because it's needed so much more so than now than before, how do we include and continue to keep our eye on inclusion? Because when we don't see people every day, when they're not in their office, when they're more remote, there is that opportunity for other behaviors and biases to creep in. So how do we be intentional? How do we be focused on making sure that we include everyone as we move to our next normal? So that's just what I wanted to share. Hopefully something I said inspired you. And Jenny says, yes, I did. But I really appreciate the time. Happy to connect with anyone after this if you have more thoughts or questions.
Lucia, thank you so much. Just an amazing story. Congratulations on all your great progress at Shaw Industries, a wonderful culture, a wonderful organization. We're thankful that you shared your story today and appreciate that. And we will share your contact information and the recording of this with our participant group and invite them to engage with you if they have more questions. So I'm getting lots of accolades coming in on the chat. Everyone's
Thank you.
agreeing.
Thank you.
Wonderful job. Thank you so much. So as we wrap up today's session, I know that we're right at time. We may have a couple of, I don't know if any questions came in, mostly thank yous. Yeah. So any quick questions that you would like to share into the chat? We have 1 minute left. If anybody would like to post a question as we wrap up here today. So just seeing lots of thank you. Great
Oh,
job.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thanks for sharing. You continue to
Hopefully
be
it was
a
helpful.
great influencer and leader. It's just people are very inspired by you, as I was the day that we had lunch. I was so thankful you were open to sharing your story more broadly with our community. So as we wrap up today's session, just want to encourage you to continue to join us on our Inspire series as we hear from leaders around the region and across the country. We have Anya, who's to be speaking on June 2nd, talking about how Google's helping people connect during COVID-19. And then we have a reflection on an upcoming sustainability and design conference where we're going to be hearing the two leaders of that conference talk about how those two things come together. The Future of Work coming up by a leading HR professional out of Phoenix, and then Morehouse College's head of innovation and entrepreneurship speaking in June, at the June 24th. So do join us again, and thank you so much today for joining us, and thank you again, Lucia, amazing. And we appreciate you, appreciate your leadership in this area that's so important to all of us today.
Great. Thanks again for the
Thank you
opportunity. I
now.
wish everyone well and be safe.
Thank you now. Goodbye.